Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us at this Your Overseas Home webinar on this very sunny evening in the UK, at least. My name is Richard Way, and I'll be hosting this session. And this is focusing on what we call our golden three services that you need when you buy in France. And we have each of those three golden three experts with us today. We have Paul from Smart Currency Exchange, who'll be talking about currency. Anthony from Beau Village, who's an agent, will be talking about finding the right property in France, and Sally from Buckles law firm, who can advise on the buying process and all the legal aspects you need to be aware of. So it's great to have you all with us today. That's whether you're here live or you're watching us on catch up from our website. And we're delighted to be able to help you with all the information and advice you might need to realise your dream of buying in France or moving to France. So the session today will be a maximum of an hour. And if you're listening in live, there'll be plenty of opportunities to ask questions direct to our panellists here. So make good use of having them here today. They've kindly given up their time and our availability to offer their knowledge and all their experience. So if you do have a question, please use the questions box, which you'll see on your dashboard. Just type it in there, and then I'll feed it to the appropriate panelist. If you need a reminder of anything we've just discussed today, or you want to share this with your family or friends, there will be a recording on the website, which will be available to you, so you can watch it at your leisure again, or as I said, forward it on to friends and family. So the first person we're going to hear from today is Paul Harris from Smart Currency Exchange, who is actually the headline sponsor of the webinar today. So Paul, would you like to just introduce yourself, tell us a bit about what you do at Smart and the services that Smart offers, and then we'll start with a few questions for you. Thank you.
Great, thanks Richard. Good evening everyone. So yeah, as Richard said, I'm here representing Smart today. Where we fit in to the process for you, where we're going to be of benefit to you, is helping you understand your budget and how much you can obviously afford to spend on certain types of properties over in France. And most importantly, we're going to make sure that we keep that as cost effective as possible. As a business, we've been around for over 18 years now. And over that time, we've helped over 40,000 people in exactly the same position as yourselves, help to transfer money internationally for property purchases. So we're a well-established business. So with that comes a lot of experience from our trading team as well. So we can give you a few, whatever advice we've got on the buying process along the way as well. So yeah, we're here mainly for the budgeting, but ultimately we'll be looking to help you move the money in the most cost-effective way possible.
Okay, thanks very much. Let's just start with how you're different to a bank, because the obvious place a lot of people will go to when they need to move money abroad or within the UK is their bank, and obviously their bank will exchange sterling into euros for them, but you do that, but you do it better. What are the main differences in the service that you offer?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few different things. So obviously, first port of call for most people if you're moving money is always going to be the bank. Where we differ is pretty vast, really. I mean, if you were to give you an example, if you were to go into a bank and say speak to a cashier or a private banker, they may not actually have any experience of the markets. They might just be looking on the computer at the time, getting a price and just saying, okay, this is what we can offer you today. Where we differ is we've obviously got experts that are looking at the market all the time. We've got a lot of experience in these sorts of transactions, and we can offer that sort of hand-holding service throughout. We're not going to be, whereas if you're in the bank, they might want you to move the money out in that meeting. There's no pressure with us. We can obviously have the consultation and make sure it's the right time for you to make it, as I said earlier, as cost-effective as possible. We do offer a lot more products than the bank as well, though. So one thing that you'll get from a bank is a spot contract. That is essentially you'll go into the bank, say how much you're looking to spend, you'll get the rate of that day, and you transfer straight away. Really popular product for ourselves is a forward contract. So that essentially allows you to essentially pre-book your currency. So as an example, you may agree on a property today. You may not need to transfer the money for up to 3 months potentially. So in that time, you'll have agreed your price in euros. but the actual cost to you that's going to be costing you in pounds or whichever currency you're holding will be changing all the time on the markets. So a forward contract allows you to fix an exchange rate today. You don't actually have to pay for it until you need it. We just take a small 5 to 10% deposit, which comes out of the total amount anyway. So it doesn't cost you any extra to do it, and it gives you that sort of peace of mind that you know how much things are going to cost you as well. So you're going to get that expert service, but actually the products we can offer are much more beneficial to you as well.
Sounds great. Thanks very much. And obviously opening an account with Smart, it's no obligation comes with it. But what is the actual process of opening an account? And how soon before someone actually goes and looks at property in France do you recommend people start talking to you and actually opening an account with you?
To open an account with us is really strict, really simple. If you've gone through the registration process for this event, you may have actually registered with us already. You may actually already be talking to us. If not, it's a very quick process. You can either go online. It takes about 2 or 3 minutes to actually register for an account, or give us a call and we can talk you through the process. And again, that conversation could be up to maybe 5 to 10 minutes because we'll actually be obviously explaining the service a little bit more for you. The process is very simple. To sign up, it's literally just we'll take your name, your date of birth, and your address. We'll then verify you against your address, and then you're good to go. So it's a very quick process, and as you said, it's no obligation as well. It's completely free.
Okay, thanks very much. And what about the protection of clients' money? How can you reassure clients that their money is safe when they're using you right from the moment that they receive your funds to actually the euros arriving in the French bank account?
I mean, the security of funds is paramount to us, as well as it is to our customers. We are fully regulated by the FCA, fully authorised by HMRC, so we're a fully licensed financial services provider. But to give an example, if you were to send money to us, it doesn't actually go into the smart currency account. It goes into a client holding account. So if we're holding onto your funds, it's not actually held against a smart currency account. So that's either going to be with Barclays or the Bank of Ireland. It would typically be with Barclays. And then, so if anything was to happen to us as a business, your funds are completely secure. So it's not the same rules as the 85,000 guarantee by the FCA. We would actually refund in full the amount of money that you'd sent to us, and it would just go straight back to the account that it's sent to, that you'd sent the money from. So you're completely secure and protected when you're sending the funds to us. We only actually take your money in once we've completed the transfer. So once the funds have arrived at the destination that you've told us they need to get to, that's when we would take the funds into our account.
Okay, thank you. So just to clarify, a typical transfer would be a client would agree an amount, an exchange rate for if they've got 20,000 euros they need to send, you'd agree what that would cost them in sterling and what rate it would be for a spot transfer. The next stage would be they would then transfer the sterling into the smart account. Once that's arrived, you would then send on the agreed amount of euros to the beneficiary French bank account. That's correct.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And what sort of time? I mean, how quickly can that happen? Can that be done, turn around in 24 hours, or what's normal at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, if we can actually get funds into France on the same day, so we have a cut-off at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. If we get the transfer in and if we book the transfer and receive the funds before 3 p.m, we can get the funds out same day. Worst case, it would be the next day.
Okay, that's good. That's faster than probably some banks as well. I think.
Yeah, it's pretty quick.
And a question actually here, it fits in with what we're talking about. What fees do you charge?
We don't actually charge a fee to use the service. Obviously, we do make money somehow. So the way that we make our money isn't in fees. So we don't charge you a cost to move your money. It's actually in the exchange rate itself. So if you were to look online or Google the exchange rates or wherever you're getting the exchange rates from, you'll get the market price or the interbank price or whatever that website's calling it. We'll be buying it very close to that rate from our banks, and then the rate we offer to you will be slightly lower. So it's not a huge gap. It's exactly the same way that the banks do it, but ours is obviously a much smaller difference from the market price. We just make our money between those two rates. So we're always completely transparent with what the exchange rate you're going to be getting. So whatever we quote you, that's what you're going to be getting, because we've already factored in the difference from the actual market price. So we don't charge an upfront fee. And we'd always be transparent with the rate you're getting against the market price as well. So you're fully in the loop with where you are on the exchange rate.
Okay, thank you. A question here from David Hall. I believe this is one you can answer now. What's the financial status of Smart Currency? What's the situation is there a chance of it going into liquidation? Well, I think you've answered that actually when you said that all the clients' money is ring fenced anyway in a segregated account, so it's not the money's never actually in danger of being lost. But as a company, it's very stable anyway. Is that
so we're incredibly stable. We're privately owned as well, so we're not owned by hedge funds or various other ownership models that are in the industry. Privately owned, and we essentially always have cash in the bank to make sure that we're okay. But we've been established for, like I said, over 18 years now. So it's very unlikely that anything would happen to us as far as liquidation would go. We're financially sound. Yeah.
And the compliance and regulation is very intensive now, isn't it? Everything is highly regulated, and you've got to meet a lot of requirements in terms of compliance. So
absolutely,
obviously there's that as well.
We have to go through client compliance procedures for all of our clients, but then we also voluntarily take part in compliance audits yearly, and full account audits yearly as well. So it's we make sure that everything is compliant.
Okay, I've got one more question. There are questions coming in. We're going to come back to the other questions about currency, if that's all right, just so we give the other panelists their chance to speak. But I wanted for you to mention, it's not just about when you purchase a property in France and you're moving large sums of transferring large sums over to a French account, but also when clients have a property, or they're living there and they have perhaps smaller amounts that they need to move between the two countries. You can help with that as well, can't you? Whether it's receiving a pension, or keeping your French bank account topped up to cover your maintenance bills, second home, all that type of thing. Your service, it doesn't stop just with the purchase.
No, we have a dedicated team that will work with you after you've bought the property. We have an online platform as well if you're comfortable booking online transactions. And there are regular payment plans as well. So if you have regular bills or regular income in the UK and you've moved over to France, then we can set that up on a standing order basis as well for you, again with a fixed exchange rate. So we have a dedicated team to look after you after you've booked the sort of larger transaction for the property purchase.
Great, interesting stuff. Thank you very much, Paul. We will come back to the other questions after the other panelists, but I want to give them a chance to speak now. And so next on the podium we have Anthony Bryan from Beauvillage, who is in France now, I believe. He's just been telling me how warm it is down there. Hi, Anthony.
Hi, Richard. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Good evening as it is here. We're an hour ahead of most people, but I guess some of you are probably in, I've seen someone from the States, I think, popping up there. Welcome, everyone. My name's Anthony Bryan. I'm 23 years in now to my life in France. I live currently near Bergerac, which is in the southwest, in the south of the Dordogne department, and about an hour and a half inland from Bordeaux, for those of you who know the bigger cities only. I've been in the industry for 20 years. I ran my own agency for 12 of those, and then about 4 years ago, my company merged with Beauvillage in a takeover, and I became a senior sales manager for Beauvillage. Beauvillage is a growing company, been operating since about 2007, and we now are at about 18 high street offices, and we cover a large area of the southwest. Furthest north would be probably about Poitiers, And then we cover right down to Carcassonne, which is getting on towards the Med Coast. And as I said, 18 offices. We've got over, I think, probably around 200 sales agents out on the road. So those of you who are planning viewing trips, no doubt you're going to come across maybe one or two or maybe more of them. Yes, anyway, there you go. That's me. Richard, any questions?
Yeah, well, there's lots coming in from the audience, but let's just start with some general market questions. I mean, I've been reading and hearing at the moment that there's been a surge in a bounce back, if you like, after COVID. So the market's pretty hot with prices rising generally. A lot of demand. Stock is falling because of this rush on the market. So the advice would be, get out there and find somewhere quickly. How are you finding it at the moment?
Yeah, it's for those people that are on the ground here viewing, they've obviously got the first opportunity to purchase. For those of you who are looking from afar and searching on the internet, it's very, very difficult for you because as you see it could well be gone the next day or certainly the next week. That's the speed of the market at the moment, which is unprecedented for us rurally here in France. It's the fastest moving I've seen it in 20 years. And yes, as you mentioned, there's been a reduction in the amount of stock. It's certainly a vendor market at the moment, sort of vendor led. The buyers are scrapping for what's there. I did see a mention of gazumping. Does it go on here? We try not to. I can get into that with you personally if you want to come back to me about it. But it's one of those things. You've got to be here to appreciate what you're looking at, and if you see a property, you've got to be prepared and ready to go for it there and then.
Good. And this question here ties in only because it's linked from Stephen Smith. He said they wanted to buy about 4 years ago, but they found it hard to get viewings without funds in place. Is that still the case? So really, you need to be ready to hit the go button as soon as you see somewhere. Is that what the market's like now?
Yeah, well, I mean, we don't like to obviously turn anyone down from viewings, but you've got to look at it from a vendor's perspective as well. They only really want people viewing their property if they're ready to move forward. And unfortunately, if your house is on market and not sold or under offer, you're not in a position to move forward. What we try and do is, if you're out viewing with us, we will show you property perhaps that is unoccupied, where the vendors aren't, and that's down to each individual agent if they have the time to do it, to give you an idea of what you can get for your money. And it's not then disturbing and impacting on a vendor, and they know about it, but it's a bit about vendor management as well. But it's obviously giving you an intro into what you can get for your money in a particular area.
Okay. And is it fair to say when buyers are looking for a French home, it's best, first of all, you start with the location, choose the area that suits you, and then you might look at the properties rather than just picking a property and going, I like that, because it is all about location. Do you find that?
Yeah, I would say 99% of it is about where you buy and what you buy in that area. But yes, pick your location, pick your area of search. It's a massive, massive area, massive country is France. And wherever you're looking, you'll find there's difference in prices between certain areas, even within sort of a micro region. And each agent that you will be with will be able to talk to you individually about that. But certainly pick your area, pick your location of where you want to buy before you sort of settle down on buying a property there for sure. Make sure it's right for you.
And where are the sort of popular areas still that certainly where you're operating? I mean, is it the Dordogne, obviously, places around Angoulême, Périgord? Are we still looking at those places? Just name a few. So if people want to go somewhere where they will find other expats, but obviously you don't have to have them on your doorstep. But if you want that security of other expats around, you will.
Yeah, talking about the expat market, generally they're looking for places closer to sort of transport links, which would be an international airport. So you've got Limoges, you've got La Rochelle, you've got Bergerac, you've got Carcassonne. as well as the big cities, your likes of, you've got Brive, as well as your likes of Bordeaux and Toulouse. I'm talking about the southwest here. We're not covering the whole of France. And I think the importance for people who are expats is the connection and links to meeting up with family and having family come and visit them. So within an hour of those sorts of airports are the hot areas, probably maximum hour and a half. And if you're between two, all the better, because obviously in the winter months the flights go down. And if you're closer to one of the major airports like Toulouse or Bordeaux, then you've got better options for transport. Dordogne is still a very, very hot department. It became very hot with the French as well through COVID, those seeking to get out of the cities. So prices have increased. I can't give you figures specifically, but they've definitely gone up across the southwest, and more so in certain areas as people have left the bigger cities looking for a patch of greenery, let's say. So the Dordogne is hot. Lot-et-Garonne, certain areas in Lot-et-Garonne, very, very hot at the moment. Our Carcassonne office is doing very, very well. We push over into the Lot, which is doing very well. Charente, all up. Everywhere is up at the moment. So I can't say one particular area is hotter than the other. It's a question of where you want to buy.
And can you get and your budget, which is what I want to come to. I mean, France as a name for being able to offer a choice of affordable rural properties. If the ideal for many people is a barn or a rustic detached cottage type property with maybe an acre or two around them, which generally is more affordable than you would get in a lot of the UK. Is that still the case? What sort of budget should people have if they're looking to achieve that in some of those areas you just mentioned?
So let's say a rustic 3 or 4 bed cottage with an acre of land, close-ish to a nice town. You're looking at a range of prices from 200, probably in the north of the sector we cover, up to about 300 to 400 in the south of the sector. If you're looking for something a bit fancier with a pool, something sort of really nicely modernized, you're looking at sort of 350 in the north of the sector, going up to probably 600 in the south of the sector. Talking euros, obviously, not sterling. So it's still affordable, certainly, when you compare it to prices in the UK. The question is it on market? And if it is, it can go very, very quickly.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Good question here from Philip Riley. It ties in with what your role is as an agent, especially when you're helping overseas buyers, British buyers. So he's asking, really, do you work with one agent who will go out and find? Is that the typical scenario? Someone like yourself, so you'll go and find all their best options for them in the area that they've chosen, rather than dipping in and out of different agents. And the areas that you cover, you'll be able to access most of the properties that are available on the market.
Yeah, certainly the way we work as a company, you will have one point of contact within the agency. If you're looking in a specific area, that agent will service your needs in terms of viewings and any potential sale management should you buy. If you're looking outside of his or her sector of operation, then you may well be passed on to another agent within the Beauvillage group, who will then take over and cover their sector. So it's not a sense of being pushed from one person to another. If it's within a 30 to 50 kilometre radius of that particular person that you're in touch with, then they will deal with it. If it's outside that area, then it may, or you start looking in a different area, you may well be not allocated, but handed over to somebody else who can better serve what you're looking for and help you in another area.
Okay, thank you. And leading on from that, when yourself or one of your agents finds properties that match a client and they arrange to come over to France, Philip Brown's asking about viewing trips. In fact, he's got one planned in July, and he wants to come at the weekend. He's asking if you do them over the weekend, but maybe just talk a bit more generally about how viewing trips work and what would a typical what would a typical one be with your clients? How many properties is it sensible to view? What would they expect you to offer during a viewing trip?
Okay, if you're coming purely for a viewing trip and you're not on a holiday, often we have clients who will come for a 2 to 3 day stay. They will stay locally to whichever agency or person they're looking with in a specific area, and they dependent on sort of a budget, because some of the larger price properties might be spaced far apart and you can't fit an awful lot in a day. So you might be looking at 2 at the top end, leading up to sort of 6 at the sort of lower end of the market. So if you're looking in a town where you can get to properties really quickly, you might even squeeze in up to 8 in a day if you're very sort of specific as to where you want to buy. But generally, on average, if you're looking at a country property, you're probably looking at 2 comfortably in the morning, 2 comfortably in an afternoon. So 4, maybe 6 if it's pushed, and if you're really here only for 2 days and you want to get the maximum out of it. If you're here and you spread it out over the course of a week, then you can just decide to do your mornings, and you can do your 2 viewings in the morning, take your afternoons off to get to know the area better, or do whatever. Feel free to do what you want. Weekends, the majority of our independent agents will work weekends, although for some of them, having children, it is not so easy on the weekend, but there are some that will do it. Not everyone. I would say probably 50% of the people that work for Beauvillage will do weekend viewings.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's hopefully the answer he wants to hear. So the other thing worth pointing out is the actual level of service that you offer as Beauvillage and overseas agents generally is a lot more involved and lengthy, if you like, than a typical agent in the UK. So you're helping someone buy a property, in a country where they don't speak the language. Most people don't understand the legal language and the documentation. They've got to set up a whole fiscal identity because they're going to register for a tax number. So you'll help with all these things. Where does your service begin and end with your clients? And after sales as well is worth talking about.
Yeah, as soon as the inquiry is made, that's where our service begins. So most inquiries come through to our call centre, and they're picked upon by the people that work in the call team. And then generally they will try and have a conversation with the person who's inquired and find out a little bit more about their search, so that they can help them and send the inquiry out to the person who is best able to deal with that particular type of inquiry. Once they come through to an individual agent, after that point, there'll be a contact made and a conversation struck up about what you're looking for, what your priorities are, what your criteria are, when you're looking to do it. And it might be a long-term project of a year or 2. It might be an instant thing that you're coming next week and you're desperate to go out looking. So, we've got to react to whatever's in front of us. So those that are planning and coming down in a month, 2 months' time, that gives us ample opportunity to get to know a little bit better about what you as an individual are looking for, the type of property, the type of area, the type of sort of specific location in some cases. And each local agent has their own individual knowledge of their own area. So they'll be able to help you with things like finding a rental house if you're moving out full time and you haven't completed yet. Finding you schools if you've got children, you're moving with children, hooking you up with people in various expat associations so that you can integrate and feel comfortable and welcomed when you move, if you are moving. Find your gardeners, property maintenance people, all that type of thing is the stuff that the UK agent will not get involved in, and it's what your local agent on the ground here has an intrinsic knowledge of. Obviously, there's the talking you through the contracts and the legal side and everything. Sally's going to talk more about that afterwards. But we're here, we have the contact with the notaires in the area, and if they're asking questions that need answers, we're there to provide the answers for them. And as you mentioned, after sales service, we help you get the electrics and water turned over. If you want pool installation, if you want a decorator, all those sorts of things we are there to help you with, to give you that level of service which goes sometimes above and beyond what is required, and hopefully we do it to the best of our ability.
Excellent, thank you. I am aware of the questions about the purchase process, but we're saving that for Sally, who we're going to come to very shortly. I had another question for you, Anthony, to do with rentals, especially, it's a lot of people's vision of their new life in France is they buy a barn or a cottage and they have an outbuilding that becomes a gîte, and they earn a bit of supplemental income from that. Is that still happening a lot? Is it an easy thing to do? And is it regulated if you want to do that?
It's an easy thing to do. It's not regulated, although you should register your gîte with the local mairie so that they're aware that they have tourists in their commune. They may well be a commune that charges taxe de séjour, which is a local tax for tourists. The smaller communes certainly won't, so don't worry about it too much as long as you register with the mairie. In terms of declaring the revenue, that's something you have to do if you're a French tax resident. You declare the revenue on your income from your rentals, and that's done on your yearly tax return.
Okay. Another quick question I meant to ask just now, actually, but Helen Kunzlik's just asked it. How do you charge your fees? Does a buyer pay fees, or is it something that's covered by the vendor? Or both?
Good question, Helen. You're looking at a price on a website. Let's say it's the Beauvillage website or any other. If it is an agency that is selling, the fees will be included in that price, and therefore you will be paying the fees one way or another. It doesn't include the notary fees and the legal costs. Those are in supplement to the purchase price and the agency fees.
Okay, so in effect, you're not paying any extra fees to the price you're offering.
No, I mean, maybe she was talking about the extra services that we offer in terms of the help. No, that's all part of our service, included in the fee, if you like.
Okay, great. And the final question before we move on to Sally. I've seen somewhere mortgages, someone mentioned. How easy, how accessible are mortgages at the moment to, well, first of all, to non-resident holiday home buyers? Is it something that you can help with? And what sort of deals are available? Okay,
we're just doing an internal report on mortgages at the moment because it's becoming very, very tricky. I've just had an email around from our finance director yesterday, which the majority of French banks now are requesting a minimum income that's per household of €180,000. Or they're looking at assets, liquid assets or cash assets in a form of €600,000 as a minimum before they will consider giving you a mortgage. So obviously they're tightening up enormously, and obtaining a mortgage at the moment in France is very, very difficult for, I'll say Brits, because I think it's come about because of Brexit and whatever directives have come down from high on. It's just the last few months become very, very difficult. We've seen quite a few refusals.
Really? So that's the general message then. It's avoidable. Avoid it if you can. If you can avoid it, do your best.
There are some banks in the UK that will lend for foreign purchase. Not many. There is the equity release option. Then there are one or two banks in France that will still mortgage, but again, if you're going to mortgage, then best to get your ducks in a row before you come out viewing. Get in touch. If you're going to get in touch with us, get in touch with us. We'll put you in touch with the people who will be able to tell you if you're mortgageable or not before you come viewing.
Okay, useful advice. Thank you very much. I expect we'll come back to you after Sally. But Sally, hi Sally, thanks for waiting. Do you want to introduce yourself and what you can do to help people, and then we'll get started with some questions, and then I know there are others waiting for answers as well. So
yeah,
tell us about yourself.
So hi everyone, lovely to have you all here. I'm Sally. I'm an associate solicitor at Buckle Solicitors. We offer a full range of services to both private clients and businesses, both in the UK and abroad. I joined Buckles in 2013 to set up the French team, and I was then later joined by Emily and Leah, who are both French lawyers. So we're all bilingual, we're all qualified, have qualifications in both English and French law. And we specialise in property law, all kinds of property transactions, estate planning for clients who have assets in both the UK and France, French and English wills, administration of estates where somebody has owned assets in France and then has passed away. So that's our kind of passion and our specialism, if you like. Yeah, and I've been doing this kind of work since the early 2000s. So we've all got quite a lot of experience between us, and are very happy to work alongside estate agents like Beau Village in the client's best interests. So that's us in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's start by looking at the purchase process in France. There's some questions there about how long does it take, but let's go through each stage of it. So from the moment a buyer agrees a purchase price, they're working alongside someone like Anthony, and they reach an agreed price with the vendor. Is that when you come into play? I mean, should they be talking to you before that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that we're very happy to speak to clients when they're very serious about buying a particular property. They found one that they're interested in. They're in negotiations via their estate agency. And they've been provided with an offre d'achat, so a purchase offer document to sign to formalise that offer, which then gets passed on to the vendor to countersign. Often clients are a little bit nervous, and I'm sure Anthony and Beau Village can very well talk them through the offre d'achat document. But equally, if they would like any kind of legal advice on it as well, just to know, does it bind and does it not? Because essentially it is a contract, so they need to be aware of the implications. So we can get involved at that early stage if they would like. And then really the process then is that once that offer document has been signed by both parties, either the estate agency or a notaire's office will get involved in drafting the preliminary sale and purchase contract. So it really depends on how quickly they can put that document together. They'll need to they'll need to have all the diagnostic survey reports, the seller's title deed, and have done various bits of research before they do so. Once they've provided that draft contract, we will then review it if we're instructed and prepare a written report for the client to explain what their legal obligations and responsibilities will be under the contract. And then we will liaise with either the estate agency, if it's them who's drafted it, or the notaire in France, in order to ensure that all the relevant conditions are in that contract to protect our client's best interests. We'll prepare a written report on the contract for the clients, and make sure that they're very comfortable with it before they sign it. So that process we aim to do, and I'm sure estate agencies do as well, aim to do it as quickly as possible so that all parties are then tied into the transaction. And it's generally a period of about 2 to 3 months after signature of that preliminary contract until completion happens. Probably nearer to the 3-month mark if the buyers are applying for a mortgage, because obviously the mortgage application process takes some time, or potentially shorter if not. So what I'd say is the process in France is a different way around than in the UK. So in the UK, where you've got this long period of uncertainty before contracts are exchanged, where parties have agreed an offer, agreed a price, but all the searches and the mortgage application and everything are done at that point before contracts are exchanged and the parties are formally bound into the deal. In France, it's quite different because, as you might know, you sign the contract much sooner in the process, but the contract has lots of conditions precedent, we call them in legal terminology, but basically clauses that are there to protect you as buyers, and that if those conditions are not fulfilled by the time of completion, you are entitled to withdraw from the contract and recover your deposit. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a general overview of the process.
Okay, so yeah, no, thank you very much. So as a ballpark, we could say a sale could be completed in 3 to 4 months from offer to getting the keys.
Yeah, absolutely.
What sort of things can hold? What sort of things can hold it up? A purchase, is it?
I suppose it's things like a mortgage application. If that process takes time for the buyer to provide all the relevant documents to the bank, so that's one thing. You know, also Anthony touched on making sure that buyers are sort of in the right place before they make their offer. So we have had many approaches by buyers who say, we've made an offer on a property in France, our property in the UK is on the market, we need to have sold that, and we also need a mortgage in France. We could say, I think you've kind of gone about it in the wrong way, because far better that you sell that property in the UK first, or at least that you've exchanged contracts, you know, before you go ahead with trying to commit yourself to a purchase in France, because it can get very complicated and unpleasant if you get embroiled in that and then later find yourself trying to withdraw from it. So things like that, really.
So be prepared before you...
Yeah, just be prepared. And also, you know, some clients in the UK are quite keen to have a full structural survey done, like they would do in the UK. That's not a common thing to have done in France. I think French people tend to, perhaps, if they want to check on a building's integrity, they might send around a builder. But full structural reports are rare, and so it's probably relatively unlikely that a seller is going to agree to the contract being conditional upon you having a satisfactory survey, because that's a bit of a vague thing anyway. So we would always advise that you have a structural surveyor, you know, set up, lined up in advance, so that if you've got a property you're really interested in, you get that property surveyed straight away before you bind yourself to the contract, basically.
Okay, thank you. I've got a question from David Hall. He wants to know what funds are required at different points in the purchase process. So when you sign a contract, so when do you pay anything along the way? What are the typical percentages that you pay up until completion as a buyer?
Okay, yeah, so that's a good question. So with an existing property, commonly you will be required to pay a deposit once you've signed that preliminary contract, and that deposit is usually between 5 and 10% of the purchase price. For the more expensive properties, I tend to find that the deposit is nearer to the 5% or more than 10% if you're buying a cheaper property. You then, basically once you've signed that preliminary contract, you have a 10-day cooling off period if you're buying a residential property, during which time you can, if you want, change your mind and withdraw from the purchase, and you will then recover any deposit that you've already paid. That's mandatory by law. After that 10-day period, you're then bound into the transaction, subject to the conditions precedent that I was referring to earlier, conditions that are in your favour may or may not be fulfilled later on. And then when you come towards completion, you're then looking at transferring the balance of your funds somewhere around about a week before the completion date. The preliminary contract will contain a sort of a latest completion date, but it's not a set in stone completion date, so it's best not to arrange travel to France around that, but to make sure that first of all you finalise with your agency and the notaire and your lawyer, if you're involved in one, a date that suits everybody. Make sure that the notaire is ready to carry out completion.
So where do they transfer those? You said they transfer the funds roughly a week before. Would that be into your account, the lawyer's account for completion?
No. As solicitors, we don't receive monies into our client account for foreign purchases. So we would recommend always that clients consider opening a currency account with somebody like Smart Currency, and then we would liaise with Smart Currency as well. They would send us their account details, and the funds would be transferred in there for them to send on in euros to the notaire.
And actually, we've had a couple of questions about opening a French bank account. Can anyone do this at any time, or when do you recommend people first open their bank account? And who could you recommend local banks that clients should use? Maybe that's one for you, Anthony. I don't know. Do you help clients open bank accounts and recommend?
It might be slightly more one for Anthony. I would say that they need to have a place, I imagine, that they're renting or that they own before they can have a bank account. I think it's probably quite tricky otherwise, but I'll let Anthony answer that one if that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, if for those people that are moving to France, if they've got a rental contract, they can open a bank account. If they're looking to have or buy a second home, they can start the process of opening a bank account at a local bank to where they're buying by getting all the documentation in place, getting all that registered with the bank, so that when the title passes over to them on the purchase, the bank account is open and ready. It is essential to have a bank account because without it, we're not able to get the utilities transferred over to the new owner. So change of ownership and title comes into issue there. So do try and get ahead of the game if you're buying a property and get the ball in motion of opening an account. I recommend opening a bank account locally to where you're purchasing. French banks are very, very regional, and I'm on the borders of the Dordogne, the Lot-et-Garonne, and I'm not talking any specific banks, but there are two banks in town where I am that if I went 10 kilometres down the road, it's the same name above the door, but it's an entirely different company. So but go with somewhere local, close to where you are, otherwise you might get into trouble.
And what do you need? What documentation do you need to open an account? Someone's just asked that. Do you need an address? You need an address in France.
Well, you're going to have an address in France. If you signed a compromis de vente, then the bank will obviously be interested.
That's good enough.
Having that.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you've got a rental contract, that will show an address. But you also need proof of address. So you need. If you're in the UK still, you will need bills in your name. You'll need to show your passport, all that type of thing. They may even ask some banks a reference from your main bank in the UK to make sure that you are who you say you are. But each bank has pretty much a standard list. If you're in touch with them or if you're out viewing, your local agent might be able to set you up an appointment with a local bank. You can go in, have a first meeting, get the list of what they require. Then when you get back to the UK, you can send that list over send that documentation over by email. Yeah, it's not extensive, but it's necessary, unfortunately.
Am I right in saying as well the actual service with French banks, in a way, is better than the UK because it's almost old-fashioned that you'll have a point of contact within the branch who you might be able to email and ring directly and actually deal like that rather than calling a call center and going through a larger layers of organisation that like a lot of UK banks now.
Absolutely.
They do have that personal service still.
Yeah, they do, definitely. But don't call between 12 and 2. Don't call on a Monday.
I can live with that. Thank you. I just want to come back to Sally because we haven't, and people have asked, outlined the actual purchase costs involved with the property in France. So, on top of the agreed purchase price, what else do people need to budget for? Can you just give an indication of the fees, or fees as well, and notaries, etc.?
Yeah, so if you're buying an existing property, then you will have to pay French stamp duty, which is currently at a rate of just over 5.8%, and that will be included in the amount of the notaire fees that are quoted to you. So you're looking at about usually 7 to 8% in notaire fees, which includes the stamp duty. So that would be on top of the advertised price for the property. Then if you decide that you'd like to use the services of a lawyer like us, we charge on top of that. We like to give clients the choice of either an hourly rate time basis estimate or a fixed fee, with the fixed fee being a little bit higher because we will be taking more of the risk. So it's difficult for me to give you an idea outright now of what our fees might be because it depends very much on the type of property that you're buying, whether, for example, it's an apartment in a co-owned block of apartments, a large chateau. It just depends on the nature of the property, the conditions of the purchase. But we will look at all of that and then give you some pricing options for you to consider. If you're buying a new build property, the stamp duty and notaire fees are reduced, so you're looking more like notaire fees of 2 to 3%, which includes the stamp duty as well. and then of course you'll be paying VAT on the price, but that will be included in the advertised price.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Just conscious of the time, let's go back to some questions. There's some currency questions we didn't tackle earlier on. So Paul, you're still with us. So we had a question from Don Buckingham, and he says, can they use Smart to transfer Canadian or US dollars into euros? That's possible.
Yes.
You deal in different currencies. It's not just sterling and foreign. You'll exchange all different currencies into other currencies.
Yeah, I mean, our typical client is a UK-based client because we're a UK-based company, but we can deal with, well, certainly all the major currencies in the world. So Canadian dollar, US dollar, absolutely no problem. It's a very short list of currencies that we can't do. But yeah, Canadian, US dollars, no problem at all. Okay,
thanks. And linked to that, are you getting many American clients, Anthony? And it's the same process, we're non-EU citizens now, aren't we, British people? So I guess it's all the same, very similar.
Yeah,
you are getting American clients.
I'm afraid the Brits are tarred with the same brush now. You're all classed. Being a French resident, it's different for me, but you're all classed as non-EU. So you have a specific set of regulations and taxes, which are slightly different to EU member states as well. But in terms of what type of nationalities we're getting a few Americans coming through, yes. It's difficult for them to purchase a full-time home here because they obviously have their own tax implications. So the ones that come through generally are expatriated Americans, so they might be coming from the Far East, the Middle East, or other Anglophone countries, or elsewhere in the world, to be honest, rather than straight from America to buy somewhere here. But we do have them. We do have American purchasers. We have Canadians. Quite a few South Africans coming through at the moment, although that's a difficult market, the South African money market, to get funds out. That's a different story.
Yeah. And people who are relocating, are you getting many British people relocating? And what are they normally doing for visas and getting their residency? Do you help with that, or do you refer them?
We can point people in the right direction. We can't give too much advice on it because obviously it's a legal side that we shouldn't be giving advice on. But we can certainly put people in touch with people who are set up to deal with visa applications and getting people into the system. And there's numerous.
Do you do that, Sally? Yeah, sorry. I was going to say, Sally, is that something you offer, visa application?
It's not something that the French team itself offers, but we do have other lawyers because we work in association with a firm in Paris as well. So we have other lawyers within the Buckles group that can advise on that, yeah.
And are you okay can you give some idea of how people are getting residency in France at the moment? Is there a particular visa or carte de séjour that they're applying for that suits typical retirees coming from Britain?
I don't know whether, again, I'm not sure if that's something more that Anthony would answer than me, but I know that quite a lot of people are going for the 6 month long stay visa to allow them to spend that period between the 3 and 6 months, because otherwise they'd be limited to the 90 days in any 6 month period. So I know people are applying for that. But there are. I know it really is quite complicated. There are so many different possible types of visa now that I wouldn't want to say the wrong thing. But there are lots of different options, certainly.
Okay, that's probably a subject for an entirely new session, I think, where we devote it just to that visa residency visa process. Yeah. Okay, we are almost on the hour, so. And questions, we've got residency questions, we're going to leave those for now. So I just want to say thank you to our panelists, Paul, obviously Smart Currency Exchange, Anthony, Beauvillage, Sally from Buckles. Do look them up and do email them and contact them direct for any other questions. And then thank you for everyone for watching. Like I said earlier, this has been recorded, so is available to watch again on the Your Overseas Home website, or forward on to your friends and family, anyone else you think you might be interested in it. We have other resources available as well, guides and articles, etc., on the Your Overseas Home website, which should be helpful too. So final thanks to Paul, Anthony and Sally. Thanks again, everyone, for watching, and good luck with your property buying journey in France. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.